any agenda items? So if you want to speak on an agenda item, get that to me ASAP. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. It is 6:07. It is September 9th, 2015. This is the Animal Advisory Commission. First order of business is approval of minutes for the meeting held on August 12th, 2015. Joan provided that notes to everybody.
I know that we approve the minutes around the last call.
Do I have a second? Second by Robert. Motion by Larry. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 2 is citizens communication general. We have one speaker, Deborah Lefkovich.
It's us again.
We're glad to see you.
I'm here to update you on our progress with our peacocks in our neighborhood. And here's
When you start speaking, I'll give you 3
sorry.
minutes.
Okay.
No, you can pass out your.
okay. As of today, I can read this to you, but as of today, we have 13 peacocks, down from the 21 we started with in March, that we've been rehoming, we captured and rehomed. At the last meeting, we said that we were going to trap another male, but we had a sad incident. One of our other male peacocks was hit by a car in our neighborhood. It was going too fast, not the peacock, the car, and it swerved into it, and so it died. So we decided that that would bring us down to the number of males that we, our neighborhood decided to have. So we decided not to rehome that other male peacock. And so right now we're at 13, and we have 5 males and 8 females. And the 13 is the number that the neighborhood association agreed upon in March when we had our meeting about the peacocks. So right now we have no plans, but when we meet as a neighborhood, we might decide again and have a vote and change that number. Things have been quiet in the neighborhood, and the peacock committee, we haven't had any complaints or concerns from anyone in our neighborhood regarding the peacocks. And as far as we know, we haven't seen animal control in the neighborhood looking for peacocks, and I don't know, we'd have to find out if they were called, if they've been called at all. But as far as I know, they haven't been. And again, our committee continues to reach out to any of the neighbors by asking them to come to meetings, meet with us individually, go to neighborhood meetings and things like that, but we haven't had any take on that, so things are going smooth.
Sure.
We just want to keep you updated so you know that we're on top of it. We're trying to make sure everybody gets along and gets this out together.
Thank you.
Any questions?
We really appreciate all the work you've done and the fact that we don't have to get involved at this point. It's very good, so
Thank you.
keep up the good work.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for citizen communication. We'll move on to number 3, staff briefings. Joan sent out the backup document that you have printed or on your iPad like me, so it's all yours, boss.
Good evening, everybody. So the commissioners, you should have received the Animal Services Director's Report yesterday. And the goal is to get it to you ahead of time, in a perfect world, so you're able to review it. There's a couple things that I'd like to point out to you, just some highlights. And then towards the end of this, we're going to be walking through a couple of changes we're going to be making that I wanted to share. So you should have the report in front of you, or you maybe have it electronically, depending on how you brought it with you. They don't have paper copies, do they, Joan? No. Okay. I'm not going to read all the statistics to you. Some highlights: the live outcome rate for this month was 95.8. Yeah. Kudos to the staff volunteers and to our partners in the community that have been amazing since the day I got here. Cats was 95, dogs 96.6 with a total of 95.8. Let's see, a couple other things that I wanted to point out is I think many of you were aware and some attended. We had the training we had with Amy Sadler, the founder and executive director of Dogs Playing for Life. A shelter dog playgroup program was in town and from here from the 23rd 30th on the ground, working with us extensively from morning until night. 4 presentations. We had several hundred rotations of animals. I think it was over 300 rotations of dogs in playgroups, rotations through playgroups. And this was funded through a grant from the Animal Farm Foundation. We'll be continuing playgroups, and we have been. And one of our staff members that's involved in playgroups and training and enrichment will be going over to Austin Pets Alive, I believe, next week, Kristen, to work closely with them on more one-on-one with playgroup training. The thing about playgroups is it's simple and complex all at once, and we want to do it well because it's a game changer when it comes to quality of life, length of stay, adoptions. It's very connected to all of that. Let's see, our staff dog walking program continues. Our goal was obviously 100% of the approved dogs, not on stray or quarantine, to be walked every day. When we had Amy Sadler in town and a lot of dogs were getting out of their kennels, we were really focused on that training and rotating staff and volunteers through the training so they could spend time with Amy. Please do.
On the staff dog walking initiative, we're currently using a tag system, which some of you are familiar with, where the tags get put on to the kennels. Unfortunately, we've been walking through every day, paying attention to the tags, and we're finding a couple things. They're falling off. They're also being removed by volunteers who want a dog walk multiple times. So a volunteer will take tags off so that it seems the dog hasn't been walked. And this is just, I'm sure they have the dog's best interest at heart, but my point in saying this is that it's not an accurate way to track dog walking. We're moving to a walkboard system, which is what Austin Pets Alive uses, where we won't just track one break, we'll be tracking 3 breaks a day, whether the animal got in kennel enrichment, and those have been ordered, they're on their way, and they'll be put in the next week or so. And all of our staff then will be coming in and putting check marks for each walk, and we feel it'll be a much more accurate way to indicate the actual breaks the animal has had. And unlike tags, they can't fall off, they're being misplaced. So we're looking forward to moving towards a system that has been proven to work in many other shelters, and I know works really well for us as well.
The other thing I wanted to share that we're really excited about is the Shelter Art Foundation will be coming to the Austin Animal Center September 28th through the 3rd to present a series of workshops for volunteer photographers, teaching them how to take portraits of shelter pets that are attractive and funny and full of personality and artistic, because that helps with adoptions. It helps on social media. It helps present the side of the animal that we want to present, that people want to see and connect with. So it is an amazing program. It's grant funded, and they'll be on the ground. And I think some staff will probably rotate through also to pick up pointers and to practice, which is really about volunteers and building some depth and breadth on our team when it comes to the photography. It's a real game changer in shelters.
And they donate. We'll have a removable photography studio right in this room. So people, when it's not being used, will bring an animal. They'll get to have a lot of fun, and they'll get like a professional studio quality portrait taken right here in this room. And they donate all that equipment as part of that grant.
I do, and it's really dynamic. It's really wonderful. I'm excited about that. The other thing I wanted to go back on playgroups is we had quite a few staff that either attend a presentation, which was mandatory before you went out to play yards, or and if they went to the presentation, then they also went out to play yards. And what's really neat about this is we had everybody within the animal center, just about everybody, some representatives from throughout our organizational structure participate, including animal protection. And I think that some of you saw the animal protection officers out there participating, and the supervisors, and the comments I got, it was just how powerful it was for them to be participatory in it. And they encouraged us to work with the police department and maybe other Austin departments and agencies to come out and to observe playgroups, or to learn more about playgroups, because it would help them in understanding dog behavior when they're going to people's yard to read a meter or responding to a house for a call. What is dangerous behavior, and what is a dog just being a dog in its yard? How to avoid confrontation with an animal so an animal doesn't get shot or hurt, or be misunderstood. So I think some interesting conversations came out of it beyond just what our original goals were. So I wanted to share that with you. That's not the report. Sorry, Kristen. Going off script. I see her looking at me. I just wanted to bring that up to you because I thought that was good. And then we've got the other deputy chief position filled. Leanne Shenefeld will be starting September 21, which is right around the corner. And I think we're looking forward to getting her on the ground here in Austin. We've got some changes that we're going to be making, and actually these personnel changes, let's wrap those up in the other changes we're going to talk about. Is that okay? I'll let Kristen cover that. I'd like to kind of focus on our upcoming changes. We can cover those, please.
So over the past 30 days, we've been kind of doing an audit of like where are the urgencies, where do we really need to focus our attention most immediately. And two areas really pop out. One is in the volunteer and foster programs, and one is in the general animal care and enrichment. We've taken our two kind of key management, or called administrative managers. Those positions were formerly overseeing 3 to 4 different programs, and we've narrowed their focus. We have Sherry Henderson will now just be overseeing the volunteer and foster program as we make some significant changes to those programs. And then Erin Caldwell will just be overseeing animal care and enrichment. I think I said last meeting, it's exciting that we're getting to the point that the dogs are getting 1 walk break, but I don't think any of us will rest until they're getting at least 3 breaks out of their kennels every day, cats and dogs, and that they're getting daily in kennel enrichment. In order to do that, we have to address these 2 focus areas. And the other, so some of the more specific changes, and I know these are contained in the report, but some of the specific changes is that volunteers are now going to be scheduled into time slots into specific jobs. We have a lot of gaps in our volunteer schedule. Almost days go by where there's very few volunteers here, so we're going to change that. We're going to recruit specifically for certain jobs we need. We need people. We don't need anyone else here on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Thank you, but we're good. We need people here on Wednesdays at 2 and Fridays at 6. We've got to spread that out so that the animals are getting consistent care and enrichment. And then we're going to be, while we're doing all these new orientations, we're going to, and you'll see a public listing of these come out. We're also going to be doing some retraining for our own volunteers, challenging dog handling. I know for me personally, a dog that hasn't been out of a kennel in 2 days and is kind of giant, that's a really scary thing to go take out. And so we're going to be working with our volunteers so that they feel more comfortable handling those dogs. And I think I mentioned this last time, we finally got there. All of our dogs now have collars on and are walked with regular leashes versus slip leads, which is much safer. And we've already heard a lot of people tell us they feel a lot more confident in safe walking them. And then in the other urgency in animal care is that we're going to be identifying those animals that have either been here the longest or showing visible signs of decline. And instead of putting them on behavior locks or not letting people hand out, we're going to develop behavior programs right away. We've got a lot of help from Austin Pets Alive in evaluating some of those animals to help us set them on a path so that every animal that's showing decline is actually on a path towards getting out of here and isn't just in a holding pattern, which is something we were seeing before. So those are just a few of the changes. It's going to, oh what? Okay, good, she'll cover that. Oh yeah, okay, go. Another thing that we're working on that I think is going to help quite a bit, it's going to be very important, is we found that our animal caretakers are spending all the time cleaning. That's what they do. They don't do much caretaking because they're too busy keeping it clean, which is extremely important for the prevention of disease. And if you're not keeping the kennels clean, not only is that not appropriate care for the animal, but also just from a visitor standpoint, walking by a kennel that has poop and urine in it and hasn't been attended to, even if the dog just did it, there's the perception that, oh wow, that dog's having to live in this dirty kennel. So from a care perspective, it's not appropriate. From a customer service, marketing, perception, nobody wants to walk a dog that's been walking in poopy, it's on poop. So it's an issue, and that's all they're doing is cleaning, and that's how they spend all the time. So what we're doing is we are going to be hiring temporary cleaners, part-time positions, temporary staff, for 6 months,
that will be doing nothing but cleaning from 7 a.m. until approximately 11 or noon, depending on what the budget I'm putting together for this will work. That's gonna give us time, it's gonna give us 6 months, which will fly by, for us to figure out how we can reconfigure, restructure what our staffing duties are, so that the animal caretakers can actually be doing enrichment, training, behavior, play groups, the whole gamut of care for an animal. Just what Kristen said, I think what's really important in the shift for us here in Austin is we're going from us being a noun to a verb. We're not a shelter, we offer shelter. Animals come through our doors, they either are humanely euthanized for the right reasons, they go to rescues appropriately that are well equipped to work with them, or they're adopted out. And so the shorter time they have in our building, the less compassion the staff and the volunteers have, the better care the animal has, the less the costs are. And so that's our primary focus and what we're looking at. In a second, we'll be talking about the no-kill implementation plan and in the great meeting we had with Palmer Newhouse. But what we're looking at is everything we're talking about is geared at moving animals through the building appropriately. And so we're finding some kinks in the pipe. It's a process and procedures that either aren't in place or just need to be smoothed out, or we need to be looking at best practices. And so that's what we're focused on. I wanted to talk about the temporary cleaners that we're pretty excited about, because I think that's going to change. And then, yeah, that's the one thing. I think you covered everything else. You covered the walk boards, the structuring the volunteer program. Anything else on that? Changes
No,
on
we've
that?
been using this slogan. The only other thing I want to mention is we've been using this "Give a Pet a Better Life" slogan as sort of a tagline. And we've talked to so many people about different ideas, and I think we're going to go with something more like "Pets are Family" in English and Spanish, and really message that. I think that this organization, to me, that seems to be what it's all about, is helping families and pets. And so it seems like almost a more appropriate message to start sharing with our community, is emphasizing that connection, that these animals are parts of people's family, whether they're surrendering them because they can't find housing to have them, or they're adding a new member of their family, emphasizing that connection. So you'll continue to see us message that more and more over the next few months.
And I have been up at City Hall for the past 2 days, and I have day round 3 tomorrow. And even though I'm not having to go before the council to talk about budget issues at this point, touch wood, there's no wood around, that I am talking to my fellow directors. We're all up there. And the library assistant director stopped me and said, you know, library people love animals. I don't know if you knew that. Well, my mother retired from a library, and I'm very close to librarians just in my career, professionally for different reasons. I said, yeah. And so they have TV screens in the libraries that they want to be able to put up photos of our dogs and our promotions and our programs, and they want to connect with us. And the other thing, I remember someone laughed about some of my enrichment ideas, music, reading, not just a 15-minute walk, but a full complement of different enrichment for different animals that gives them what they want, not what we think they need. And that she brought up that. She brought up the reading program about coming in and reading to an elderly animal or a sick animal or an animal that's already had a walk and just going to bed, and so nighttime reading. So I'm really excited about partnering with parks and libraries and that way. So something good is coming out of my time up at City Hall this week. A lot of good is coming. Anything else in the director's report? I jumped right to the report, and I did not say anything about Chapter 823, Health and Safety Code. I did not have anything to report on that. I know we have that on our agenda to visit. We talked about dog enrichment playgroups already. And, oh yes, thank you very much. On the director's report, I shared a link. It's fetchitsoftware.com metrics. And Chip Young, president of the Friends Group, developed this software tool, application, I think is what it's called, that is metrics for the shelter. And the link is on the report for your convenience. And they're new shelter dog metrics that we want to share with you. And it has things in it that are very, very interesting. For instance, let's talk about length of stay.
It just shows length of stay, like for instance, length of stay per kennel for the adoption floor kennels versus TLAC. You know, it's vastly different. It's really worth taking a look at. It shows us do black dogs really stay here longer than brown dogs? And so it calculates a lot of that information, and we're working on some of that same stuff for cats. And Chip's been great. We're trying to get an overall picture to see how we can improve movement of animals to increase their chances of getting adopted. So we brought over a lot of long-stay dogs from TLAC who have been there months to over a year, and we put them in the 1 in 200 rows because we know those get adopted more quickly, and indeed it's working. They're getting adopted after spending months at the TLAC kennels.
So that's pretty neat, we're excited about that too. I do not have a donation funds report. Health and Human Services didn't get me one this week. I really think that all of our attention, their budget folks have been up at City Hall all over. So we can send one out next week. We can get that up. Joan, can we send one out, or do we have to wait?
As soon as we get it, I'll post it as backup
Okay,
and notify you.
so it'll be posted, and we'll have that up. But I think that everybody's concerned, we're all up there, just consumed with this
Yes.
process.
I don't know if this is a good time to interject, but I had a question because I was looking at the one that was posted on 8/12, and it was the balance sheets accounts for 7/30/2015. And I would like to see if it's possible, the items broken down even further. Like for example, you have the enhanced behavior program. You have 50,000 that is either committed or encumbered, and I'm not sure, is that money that has been set aside already, or is this something that is planning to happen?
Sure, well, it's a good question. When I came here and there was the resolution from the city council that asked the city manager's office to look into do something about enrichment, we set aside some funds for that. And then we've got playgroups funded, so I didn't need to touch it. And I think we're getting another grant, are we not? We've got another, we hope, fingers crossed, we have another grant coming. But I set aside those funds, anticipating that I'm going to need to do something financially to augment, to supplement what funds I have from the general fund for enrichment, training, and behavior. I think we're just getting started, getting the cleaners in and getting the caretakers. My thinking for that money is what I may have to do is bring in some subject experts, do some training with our caretakers on enrichment, behavior, and training, so we can develop a protocol for employees, a checklist, a training program, job descriptions. I think that's going to be beyond what we can do in 6 months, simultaneously with addressing the no-kill implementation plan, our strategic planning, and then having new staff on board.
So you're foreseeing the money being spent on bringing in experts for training? Is that one of the things?
I can't tell you exactly, I just know that I needed to set some money aside because I knew it was very important.
And is this money being set aside, is that taking away from other programs? Or how is that, where did that money come from? Or, I mean, I know it's part of the budget, but is anything else going to suffer by setting this money aside?
No, it's new funds.
It's new funds.
I believe we received a donation, did we not, from Rachel Ray?
Some of the other,
Rachel Ray donated.
So it's a grant.
Significant, it's not a grant, it's unrestricted funds, but we were putting it towards enrichment because that's where we thought the biggest need was. Did that help?
Yes, and then something else, I know you have your proposed budget, and I know it's proposed for next year, for 2016, and
You're talking about the general fund now?
is this a good time to talk about the proposed budget?
Oh, sure, it's the general fund, so we're not talking about donations.
Right.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
And then I have some question about your page 2. You talk about the number of animals sterilized in the community. For the actual numbers for FY14, it's 7,636. Is that include emancipate, feral cats? What does it all include, that number?
I don't think it includes anything.
Yeah, I think it does not include that, I think that includes what we've done
So it also includes our spay and neuters?
in shelter.
Oh, okay, so then, actually, so the difference that was done outside the community is 1,496 when you deduct the ones
I
from
believe
the
that's what
shelter.
that is. I can get you clarification and I can email you
Right, because I was wondering, so out of that 1,496, how many of them were ferals, cats, scrap cats? Okay, the spay and neuter. Also, in page 3,
We can get that for you, and just so you know, I did not create that. That was created by the city for me.
okay,
It was prescriptive, and it was given to me as that was gonna be my talking points.
okay, and then also, so this is probably, since you mentioned it was done by the city, I noticed that for 2016, even though the budget, the proposed budget has gone up from this year, from 10.9 million to 11.8 million, prevention services are actually projected to go down for next year, and field services,
What page are you on?
page 3.
Guys, we do have a budget item under old business.
Oh, okay, well, that's what I said, is this a good
Yeah.
time to
I
bring
mean,
it up?
we're already, is it all right?
I mean, if
Chair-
you're already
Chairman?
going, so go ahead. I'm just going to remind you that we have a budget item.
Let's see, Department use of funds, field services. I think the thinking, let's see, what was the other one? Prevention services and field services. You know, this is just an approximation
Okay.
that the financial department put together. I think the thinking is that we would have less calls in the field.
We can look into it, and maybe at the next meeting, we can report answers to these that are
You got-
specific, because I think that these are such specific questions, I wanna make sure we get you exactly the right information.
The shelter services shows it going up, and it shows prevention going down, which would not make a whole lot of sense to me. And John, if there's anything that jumps out at you on those two.
No,
And I know it's a proposed budget, but that's why I'm asking, because just before any final decisions get made.
Yeah, you know, here's the thing, if when we get into the budget, if field services went up, prevention went up, and shelter services went down, what matters is that I come in under budget. How the money's spent. So in other words, if we have more calls in the field, but it results in less intake in the building, it evens out. It's a good question. I didn't prepare the slide. I think I was brand new when I got this packet and had to present on it. I was the first person in the city to present, which was very special. I wanted to change it to mammal services. I didn't want it to be animal services, not go first. But I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll get clarification on your question.
Okay.
Thank you. And it's good, they're good questions, thank you. Anything else on budget? Ma'am? Anything else on budget?
Oh, no. Oh, but you are gonna try to itemize the different areas of spending, because I don't know who said this, but I thought this was on each department
For the donation
for
fund?
the donation fund, yeah. So going back to the donation fund.
So you're requesting that we give you an itemized?
Yeah, I'd like to know,
accounting?
like, like, for example, for volunteers, you've allotted $10,000. I'm not sure what it was allotted for, what it's gonna be used for, but like for any area that you've allotted money, if it doesn't get spent, does that go back into the general fund, and can it be used for other purposes?
If it's donation account, we don't lose those funds, that rolls back in. General fund, if we don't use it, we lose it.
And also, I think we had agreed to have a monthly update on the donations fund. Will that be possible? I think it was during the first meeting, because I know we just got the July one, and I know you just mentioned August, you weren't able to get it to us on
Yes,
time.
Health and Human Services provides that to us, and they've been busy with the budget,
Okay.
so we will upload that. But no, I've been doing monthly, this is my third meeting, we've been doing monthly reports.
That's the report you're talking about, the next week, or next,
Okay. Right.
We'll
that's
upload
what
it
we
tomorrow.
did. Okay, thank you.
You bet. Lamar Beach update. Again, the kickoff, this meeting took place, and now we have meetings scheduled just about every month. We'll have a representative there. We are mapping out milestones and timeline. Most importantly, stakeholders will be engaged in the planning process. Anybody that has anything to do with the land at Lamar Beach, around Lamar Beach, is specifically in this case, Austin Pets Alive and ourselves that are utilizing the Town Lake Animal Facility, Animal Center. Obviously, we'll be involved in the planning and the visioning and the thinking and looking at community needs. And interestingly enough, this kind of links very nicely with our meeting with Palmer about the no-kill implementation plan. Lo and behold, when the plan was put together in 2009, there's a line item in there that Town Lake Animal Center would be utilized after we moved into this building for animals, as an adoption center and for animal services. So the intention was from 2009 on, that those facilities be utilized the way they're being utilized. Because I'm hearing time and again, well, they were supposed to be shuttered and we're not supposed to be using them and they're old and we're in this new building. But in the plan from 2009 on, it said that we were going to be using them. So the good news is we're doing what was set out in the plan and adopted by City Council in 2009. So that planning process has begun and I'll keep you posted on that. It's going to be rather lengthy. And then the no-kill implementation plan, Kristen, I'm trying to talk when you talk about that.
So we met with Palmer last night to talk about, we've all been kind of going back through and reviewing the no-kill implementation plan and asking some questions, you know, how relevant is it? How much is it still current? Does it still matter? Should we still be discussing it? And I think that we're all in agreement that it is still really relevant and that there's parts of it that still have yet to be tackled. And what we're planning to do over the next month is we're going to be putting together a more detailed audit report, and we're going to link it into the no-kill implementation plan. So it points back to those pieces in the plan that we still have work to do on. Off-site adoptions is an easy one. We've got a long way to go on that issue. But we're going to be taking the audit, we're going to be relating it to the no-kill implementation plan, and then we're going to be thinking about next steps and how does that plan stay in existence and maybe have some updated addendums included that are relevant to where we're at now. And there are some things that weren't in the plan that we do need to do now. And so we'll be adding those in. And I think, does that kind of capture what we're
Yeah,
talking about?
I think so, and I think that an update from y'all, you're coming in, kind of giving us an update on where we are, like when you mentioned, talking about the foster program, you thought still needed growth and expansion. You know, I guess I wasn't fully aware of how much that it might need. Some of that I found very interesting. And I think to get an update of where we currently are compared to where we started and what City Council passed on what we need to do to help continue, I think would be great.
The timing on it's really good. I think, Kristen, will you be, what day are you on? 3 weeks, 4 months of your tenure here? Huh?
About a month.
And so, as everybody knows, I started in June, but when I came in, I was dealing with some really hot issues where the budget there were some budget cuts on the table. There was some issues with enrichment. There was some, the fallout from the audit. So those are things I attended to right away, and then we also were doing the hiring. So now having Kristen here for her first 30 days and getting through the budget situation now, I think we'll be able to dig down deep and do that 30-day kind of review and audit and looking at the no-kill plan. And it works out perfect because we're also launching the strategic planning process, which we hope the commission will be participatory in. So that's that.
I have a couple questions for you. So going back a couple steps to the update, that first one there, you got 288 animals surrendered by owners. Do you all isolate what exactly the reason why they're surrendering? And how is that broken out of that 288?
Well, they're not currently broken down, and I don't think it's, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but we take qualitative data, so we get information beyond just a word. So we get information, they were surrendered because of housing restrictions, they were surrendered because the family's moving, they were surrendered because of allergies, but we're not breaking those down in our shelter software system about reason for surrender yet. Once we will start doing that, and once we do, that'll be another area where Chip will be tracking the data.
So do you have any idea when you're going to start doing that? Because I think that's really, for what I'm working on, I think that's really critical.
Oh, the housing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So we will be if that's something that's gonna be important for you now, we can talk about fixing that sooner. Generally, getting that more specific data, is gonna mean us looking at a shelter software system that can kind of track that for us.
And we are looking, I think everybody knows that, or if you don't know, I'll tell you, I'm working on with the city on creating an RFP, request for proposal to, change our software, the software that we're using. And, we'll see what company prevails. It certainly would be nice if the software company that Austin, Maine, and Austin Pets Alive utilizes, because then they can talk to each other. And we transfer animals between those organizations. But that has, it's intuitive, it's web-based, user-friendly, and the reporting, something like what you're asking, is easy.
Other systems are web-based, so it's easier for you to log in.
Do you have a time frame on when you're planning to do that?
Oh, mercy.
Probably down the
The
road.
data, if we do proceed, any data transfer process is kind of a cumbersome, time-consuming process. It's a lot of data to move.
Yeah.
I know
By
that.
I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm hoping we have something in place by December, because if we start, now, which I am, I have a meeting with procurement, the IT department and Health and Human Services, the director's been very, very helpful and understands the urgency.
But right now, we can start, we should talk, and we'll start tracking the ones that are surrendered for housing, and we can even go back and do that in the notes. It's just not an easy, like a box.
And if you need help on that, I'm more than happy to have some stuff.
No,
on paper
it's
so we can
really
get there.
important.
Thank you for asking that.
Thank you. All right, that's any questions on that? The other question I had, you had mentioned about the volunteers, that, Saturday, 10 o'clock, not enough. But on Wednesday and Friday, I heard you say that you need help. So what are you doing in order to gain more volunteers or to cover those spots, to reduce them Saturday and to position those to Wednesday and Friday?
Yeah, so we're recruiting for specific positions for specific times. So we're gonna be reaching out to the community to say that we need large dog walkers these days, and we're gonna be really specific about our needs. But then we'll hold information sessions here. So a first step will be that we'll invite the community to come in and learn about what that specific job is and the times that are needed, and we'll invite them at that time to apply with the understanding that our needs are very specific. And we'll do the same thing for, we had something called the Comm Crew. So we recruited Comm Crew volunteers, which was a great job for parents and kids. And so we'll do a whole recruitment, parents and kids who want to come in, stuff Kongs, feed them to all the dogs, and then watch them. And so we'll do these recruitments for those specific jobs. And then the computer system we use will look different. It won't be you can just sign up whenever. It'll be that people are actually signing up in the scheduled slots so that the volunteer coordinators can go back and say, Wednesday, we have gaps all day here. And if that's a chronic problem, then we need to do another recruitment. Or if it's a problem that everybody went on vacation the same week, we might need to pull in the troops and use that Facebook page that we have to call people.
So you're talking about a software, is that the software you're talking about that's going to be down the road, or is this something?
No, it's the Give Pulse, it's the volunteer software, NAMDO.
It's Give Pulse, you sign it. You
So
sign
it's
up for
currently-
your shift.
You self-sign in,
Yes.
but currently you can kind of just sign up. And you can choose your own spots, and this will be much
So when you're
more.
recruiting, have you isolated your target markets?
We won't have trouble getting the numbers of volunteers, they will be there. We have isolated the jobs we need and the times we need them for. And then we are going to be using news releases, using social media and other forms to spread the word. The volunteers are there.
So you're just kind of throwing it out, you're not really targeting anybody.
Right.
We're not, but we are targeting people with specific skill sets for certain jobs. So we do need people that are physically able to walk strong, rambunctious dogs. So we're going to be recruiting for that skill set. We need people to stuff Kongs who can handle smelly dog food. So we are going to be very clear with people and upfront about the expectations of each position.
And I think just repeating press releases or media news releases over and over saying that we're recruiting for volunteers, general broad asks don't motivate people to action. But if we're specific about certain needs, it does. And I mean, we've seen that with the Amazon wish list. It's not volunteering, it's specific items. If somebody knows we need something, I mean, we have to be careful how we ask for it, because you're gonna end up with enough for like 5 years.
So we're going to be asking, people want to contribute specific things, and I think we had a lot of success asking for what we needed versus just being like, we need volunteers. And our hope is that that schedule's so full in a year that people are like, I can't get a spot that day. That would be the kind of end result for us. That would be sufficient. But you'll have 20 different positions every single day. That cat room should have 4 people in it every hour that we're open, so that nobody's ever waiting to visit with the cats. There will be ample opportunities, and then it'll be our job to fill those up.
And so this, what you're proposing hasn't been implemented previously.
No.
Great, thank you guys.
So, slip leads, is there a problem with them? 'Cause I know
Yeah.
when Larry and I came down to walk dogs, I felt very secure having a slip lead. And I know, I don't put collars and leashes on my dogs much at home, but when I do, they fly off their heads.
Well, Mike, would you like to talk about that? I have some really strong opinions about slip leads, and I think it actually, one thing I want to say before Mike talks about it, because he has more experience than I do, I know from the standpoint of going to walk a dog and to use a slip lead, I think it's problematic. I think it dissuades staff and volunteers for a number of reasons. What can you comment on?
Yeah, I mean, the slip lead for very short term, like in and out, from A to B, still has some issues with it, but it's not too detrimental. But from a behavioral standpoint, though, there's no limit to how far it slips, and so you have to have it activated at all times to prevent the dog from getting out. Because if you have it loose, it'll fall off the dog. So you have to keep it tight the whole time. Which, if you think about the information you're giving to the dog, they're pulling, they're staring at things, and they're just choking the whole time. So it can cause on-leash reactivity issues. It's kind of counterproductive to what we want to teach the dogs, which is if you're next to us, there's no pressure, that's a comfortable place to be. They're always feeling pressure on a slip collar. So that, from a training perspective, it can be detrimental. From a safety issue, when they're all naked in their kennels, it's difficult from a safety perspective to go in the kennel and be able to effectively handle the dog, reinforce any kinds of good behaviors, because you don't have anything to clip onto or hold onto, and they don't have a collar on. So having collars on them and I think you guys are using martingale collars.
Can you
Yeah. So the martingale collar itself, when properly fitted, it's a limited slip, so it still has the same safety features as a slip collar in that they can't get out, but it won't keep going, and it also won't come off. The collar won't slip over their head, resulting in a loose dog, because there's a limited slip feature when they're properly fitted. So it provides you more comfort, it provides you more control, and the dog should have a better experience along the way.
So the dogs can wear them all the time?
Right.
So if I go walk with the dog, I just pick the
Right.
leash, hook it up, and go.
Right, and the other thing that's really interesting, and Mike, correct me if I misspeak, but from a standpoint of going in, and remember what Kristen said about a dog, if it hasn't been exercised, it hasn't gotten out, and you're sitting, and you don't know the dog, you may or may not know the dog, we've got a lot of dogs here, a lot of staff, a lot of volunteers, and so you're doing one of these with the slip lead, and the dog's like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're by my head, and I don't know you, and this is weird. So then when you find, if you successfully lasso them, and it's not hard, I mean, they use slip leads successfully.
They're really intended, I think, for veterinary purposes. That's what they were.
Very
for
short.
use in vet clinics, and then also my first week here, like my
I
hands.
burned my hands up.
So, and I know our volunteers too. They wear gloves so that their hands aren't burning. They're made for rope.
Because I would wait till the end of the day to go walk a dog. I would go and look, and they'd be tag, no tag. But you don't have a tag, you look sweet. Go with a slip lead, put it on, I'm the dumb director down there at 5 o'clock, and I'm like being dragged behind like Mary Poppins, because the dog, there was a reason that there wasn't a tag. And I'm like, I'm putting like ointment on my hands at night. So it's a game changer when you have the appropriate collar and the appropriate leash. It's safe for the animal, and then everything you said about information, we're reinforcing. It's like a loose leash, animal side to side, not always constantly doing one of these to steer the animal around.
All right, thank you.
You guys, just out of curiosity, is there anything other kind of behavior or like any other kind of equipment that
Yes.
help with the
When
dog?
she was asking about the behavior and enrichment, yeah, certainly. I mean, we use, in my previous experience, and I know kind of animal shelter behavioral best practices at APA and many other shelters. They have a whole variety of equipment, from easy walk harnesses to gentle leaders, to different ways to handle the animals safely, and different equipment works for different animals. So we want definitely those bigger dogs, harnessing them makes it a lot, putting these easy walk harnesses on, makes life a lot easier and safer for the people
Actually,
walking.
we have a ton of them. They're stored in a shed
That's
out
what I
there
heard.
by the big playpen.
That makes me so happy, I'm going to go run out
And
there
then some
and
of
get
the
them.
volunteers actually make their own harnesses
Right,
using
I heard.
the leashes that they use, even for the little ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, but there are a ton of them.
Oh,
You know, again, I think every animal having a plan, coming into the building with a plan, and it's not a one size fits all. I really can't get away, I think about it as, resident / patient care, there's a plan. Whether it's the veterinarian staff, or behavior training, enrichment, animal care staff, we have plans for the animal, and it's reflected in the notes. And that way, volunteers and staff that are supporting the animal, finding its home, getting adopted out, can support that plan.
Questions?
Well, I have a comment. This director's report is awesome. We've never seen anything like this.
I love the
This
format.
is, yeah,
Bullet
it's,
points, very easy to read, it's
Yeah.
perfect for me.
it's really
Well, thank
detailed,
you.
thorough.
I have to give credit where credit's due. Kristen has perfected this format. We worked on it in the past, and I think it's something we wanted to have something that would be useful and give a good snapshot of the last month.
And also the format of the Austin Animal Center metrics on Fetch It. Awesome. Really good. I've already heard them.
thank you.
Chip's doing some amazing work.
Yeah.
Thank you for that compliment. We met today and talked about some other projects we have in the works that he's planning.
It's gonna run away, I never come back. Bothering him, like, it's you, maybe, just run this case.
Some of our plans on the metrics piece, if I can work with the city IT on that and get him access to what he needs, will be absolutely amazing if we can develop a portal that he's visioning that. And then not just Austin Animal Center, but our other partner organizations can also put that information up. So that it could be really neat, because it gives a strategic snapshot, a picture of different data, things that are meaningful.
Questions?
One quick question about the no-kill audit. Are you auditing the commission's plan or the itemized one from the?
The audit we're performing is basically looking at our shelter as compared to best practices in the nation in all different areas: animal care, veterinarian care, volunteer foster programs. So we're looking at it from that kind of national perspective to say, like, how much in alignment with national best practices are we? And so what we'll be reporting back is sort of where do we stand, where can those improvements be? There's been a number of great national organizations that give us guidance. ASPCA Pro, Animal Sheltering Magazine, all different kinds of Betty's Fund. They're constantly providing us guidance and best practices, so it's really easy for us to go and look at our programs and say, where do we fit in line with this constantly evolving best practices.
And I think, if I understood your question, not the one that was distilled by staff or a summary, it would actually be, was it a 34-point plan?
So that's the one we're gonna be referencing, yes. We'll be referencing that as we do our audit of where we're currently
Not
at.
the compilation.
We'll be referencing the plan.
Okay, we will wrap up the director's update.
Thank you.
We'll move to 4, old business. First is update, discussion, and possible action regarding the dangerous dog report.
Before we start, I apologize. And I was just looking over my notes, and I just now caught this right now. So last meeting, we said that there would be a full business item related to license charters, but I didn't see that on there. The bylaws, sorry, that's
it's on
commission.
that. Yeah.
It's number F or F?
It says, instead
I'm
of
sorry,
term, it
yes,
says
okay,
bylaws.
they're all on that. Okay. All right.
And Kristen has stepped out, the media was here that wanted to talk about speaking of surrenders and housing issues, and there's people- breed restrictions, people surrendering animals because of housing. She stepped away.
So we finally had a work group meeting, and the first thing we talked about was is there really a need to revise anything? And we decided yes, because there are some gaps in the current ordinance and the dangerous dog law. So the first thing is, so as far as the dangerous dog law, the state law, we cannot really change that, but we can place further restrictions on the dogs that are labeled as dangerous. So we decided it would be a great thing to microchip those dogs in addition to registering them as dangerous, and also make it mandatory for them to be spayed or neutered. And then we have the vicious dog law ordinance as part of the city, and instead of just calling all dogs vicious, we wanted to split it into two categories: nuisance and aggressive. And the nuisance would be bitten or scratched a human 3 times or attacked another animal. The aggressive would be severely injured a human, not covered under dangerous, because there's some specific things they have to do to be labeled under dangerous. If they killed an animal, or if they're a repeat offender, labeled as nuisance. Some of the things we want to look into are gray areas, so different conditions that animal protection has an issue labeling these dogs. How long do we, or how many repeat offenses do they have to do before we call them a nuisance, before we call them aggressive? And what existing laws do other cities have that we could take from? We also want to look at how, for instance, dangerous dogs, is there any data that shows us how frequently they repeat this? Because we would like to make it 3 to 5 years where they can do an appeal for nuisance or aggressive dogs, so that they're able to remove that title if they haven't repeated themselves, if they haven't had any issues since then. And the other thing is, within the city law, they're not currently able to do an appeal if they're, whereas they're able to within the process for dangerous dog law. So we want to be able to do that, modeled after dangerous dog, and then also if they're not in compliance, be able to issue a warrant for seizure of the animal if they're not in compliance, just like the dangerous dog law. So modeling a lot of things after dangerous dog law and really giving it more enforcement capabilities, and also being able to label a dog as a nuisance, which would look a lot better, especially if they're applying for, say, an apartment or something like that. Being able to have a nuisance dog because it's attacked another animal as opposed to an aggressive dog that's killed another animal.
Questions? How much work do you think you have left?
So me and Palmer are gonna meet, work out a draft, and then we'll meet with the work group again and go over it and see what we want to amend.
Okay.
So
I
I'll
think
let that
that's,
couple
I
months.
think that's kind of what we were hoping to do, kind of balance the line
It
of.
became clear that it was confusing where some of them fell, and if we're having trouble following where they
Right.
fall. And I like the fact that they can, it sounds like maybe some of the time, the dangerous dog is being, they're choosing which one to assign based on which is clearest, given the case, and we thought maybe cleaning it up and clearing it up might allow for some appeals for the ones that don't meet the dangerous dog.
Okay.
And also, I mean, having the vicious dog law and kicking an animal out after a one-time offense is not a great, it's not a great model for being, one of, in other
Right.
areas, the
Right.
greatest animal-friendly cities in the country.
Right.
So, we should have a more progressive stance on that.
That's really encouraging, it's really interesting,
I think y'all are doing good work.
very encouraging.
Okay, and B, update discussion and possible action on the rental, housing, and breed restrictions work group.
That one's a little tougher. You have lost it all. I have a 95% rental rate that I'm dealing with. So, we're still moving forward. We're still working on our pilot program to bring more light to a couple apartment communities that don't have the restrictions. And their owners and landlords decided recently that they want to get away from the rate restrictions because there's more income based for the landlords. The offside of that is that with 95% rental rate in Austin, there's not a whole lot of incentives. So we've got a conference call tomorrow with some national folks about rate restrictions that want to participate within the Austin community. So I'm looking forward to that and moving forward maybe in a different way.
Questions?
Sorry, what is an employee?
Get back to you tomorrow. After the conference call, I'm hoping they're gonna have some input that they can help us deal with the 95% rental rate.
Okay, C, update discussion and possible action on the wildlife work group. The work group is not met, but I did have a good conversation with Tony. I've been putting off making a recommendation until we had that discussion. Now that we've had that discussion, I think that the work group and Tony are in sync, and I think we agree on a lot of things, and I think that we can bring our final recommendation probably to the next meeting. As you see, we have deer, coyotes, peacocks, alligators, so, I think one thing we're looking at is maybe a comprehensive humane wildlife management plan, and then maybe internalizing control over wildlife management instead of farming it out. So I'll call a meeting, and I think we can wrap that up next month.
One of the things that, I don't know, talk about this now, but with wildlife that comes into the emergency room, is there are two people that we generally call, that are basically private, they take it to their house and they're private rehabilitators, and so we'll get in and, things that would be very difficult to care for in a shelter environment, maybe skunks, babies, squirrels, hawks, other raptors. And it's, one of them is about to retire, so it's gonna be very, very difficult to do rehabilitation without needing somebody else, so. I don't.
We have ideas.
Needing more wildlife rehabilitators, like a network.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that. Hopefully here moving forward, we'll have a report out, on some recommendations, and maybe, things that the city can be doing. I mean, we should have a fairly robust network of wildlife rehabilitators, or at least ways for people to get trained and certified, and they're licensed or just certified. A permit, at least a
Yeah,
permit.
it's something,
Isn't that the Austin Wildlife Rescue, something like that?
Is that something that Tony, you were talking about the software that you have that is robust and has volunteers and places where people can sign up? Is that something that you can sort of partner with and have that on the website? Where, who knows, there may be volunteers out there that have experience and just don't know where to go or who is in need for it.
Yeah, no, I think there is, and, technically, and I could be wrong, but wildlife really doesn't fall under the animal shelter, domestic, but it does fall under animal protection, so it falls under animal services. And I think what's missing is a professional in the city that represents wildlife issues. This is the conversation we had, that would work with the county and the state and develop a volunteer program and a network of wildlife rehabilitators. And so to have that position, we're looking, that's something I need to talk to the city managers about, my supervisor, about, do we want to, so I'm kind of giving a sneak peek to what we might be briefing you on in the future, but I need to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn. This is something that the county and the city would think about supporting. And Sarah Hensley and I, we're trying to talk about it. Again, this budget thing has hijacked everybody's time. And but talking about would they support that? Because right now, it kind of is slipping through the cracks. We've got some money and some funds that the county, that the city puts in, and the county puts in, and we're working with, the wildlife biologist from the state. And it's piecemeal, and if we bring it on, if we have a position that can be a coordinator or specialist for the city, it might make more sense.
And even like just a network where we can, I mean, because us from the emergency clinic perspective is like, what we have to be able to do is call somebody in the morning and say, hey, I've got this, I need you to pick it up today. And having maybe an email that we could send out, a blast email and say, hey, I've got this, and somebody can pick it up this morning. And then, or,
Yeah.
somebody, or a coordinator to call or something like that, but,
I don't know if we'll get there, quickly,
yeah.
but I certainly think for types of animals, reptiles, mammals, and there are different, people that specialize in certain types of animals, we certainly can develop a network. I think there's probably a lot of talent out there,
Right.
we just haven't organized it. There's probably some underground stuff happening,
Oh, there is.
and so, step carefully through that, so we can kind of help people not have to be underground. What can we do, what kind of training can we offer, to help people be part of a network of rehabilitators? In, Virginia, we have a great network, that we just get on the phone and we say, we need you to come, by close of business today, can somebody get here? Or we have volunteers that would drive the animal to the rehabilitator. So, we're not there yet, but that's the goal.
There's also another issue that I found coming up when I've tried to do things like this, is there are a lot of laws in Texas, and they change about, it used to be the laws are different about how you dealt with coyotes, foxes, predators like that, because there's state laws that kind of put into effect, for certain interest groups. And it's really nice to have someone who's up on it, because there's some things you can't do, and then it changes, and you don't ever hear about it.
Right.
It's very hard to hear about it, and someone who would help with that, because that can be kind of tricky issues.
That's why I think a wildlife management specialist for the city and the county can fund that and make sure we're following national best practices and focused on humane exclusion and only going to lethal means when we're talking about human aggression. So it just makes a lot of sense when you look at our values with animals, and that's the conversation we had. I'm not, that's just, I can only make recommendations. I still need to talk to some more folks. I met with the state last week, we meet with Sarah Hensley, we talked about it, but we're going to sit down and chat with the Parks Director. I met with some other folks about priorities, things, concerns.
I think we're moving in the right direction, so, next month we will bring forth our recommendation. Update discussion on the budget, do we want to continue with that, or, it's going to be finalized here in a couple of days, right?
Hopefully, so far we haven't been, yeah, so far we haven't been flagged for anything, I haven't been asked to move the podium, I won't one day, I think the latest is that we're over by $2 million, so they're going through the itemized budget, and then they'll get to the point where they've vetted everything that's on, they call it the concept, the agenda, and then they'll be looking at what they're gonna cut to meet their budget. So right now, we're $2 million over. So far, animal services hasn't been mentioned. I think I should have like a bat phone or something where I can get on the phone when this gets mentioned. Or there'll be a bat in the sky, and that means you don't go to Congress Street Bridge, you come to City Hall and help me.
You should try to blend tomorrow, like wear wall color.
I will.
We're not here.
They'll be calling me up to the podium. She's not here, so we can't cut anything.
Any budget questions?
Do you anticipate that tomorrow will be the day that something like that will come up?
Anything's possible. I keep asking my colleagues, since I'm new to the Austin budget process, and even though I'm not on that not on the radar, the animal services, anything is possible. And when it's a new council, and who knows who's lobbying them and talking to them, and some of the comments have been made in public meetings by some of the council members that are new about funding animal issues when human issues are so desperately needed. The thing that I would say to them, and what I said today in a meeting, a sidebar with some directors, is that, yes, we're called animal services, but we're a human services department. You cannot pull animals away from humans, and, you know, every way you look at this issue, this is about humans. In one way, shape, or form, we created the problem, where it enhances the quality of life, it completes families. That's why I love what Kristen was sharing earlier about creating families. And, or where you find abuse and neglect and criminal activity, you find the same thing with animals. And so it's so connected, you can't pull the two apart. This isn't an animal. So that would be what I would say if that came up, but I don't know if I'll be asked about that. You're smiling.
Well, the animals on this planet did fine for millions of years with no complaints. Right?
Yes, sir. That's what I say. We can look it up.
Okay, 4E,
We talked about that already.
do we need to have any more discussion on no-kill implementation?
I think that the more I think about the Lamar Beach, and I think that the commission we should consider maybe forming a working group to focus on Lamar Beach, and also ask if we can participate in that process. So I think that's the only thing under no-kill implementation plan, which is largely, not largely, but focused on Lamar Beach. I think that's
Okay. That's something you want to form now, or?
I think so. Yeah, do you want to make a motion?
Sure, make a motion.
I make a motion, I move that we form a Lamar Beach working group to participate in the development of the Lamar Beach process.
Second, anyone?
I'll second.
Go to Angela, second. All right, we have a motion by Larry and second by Angela. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay.
If I could just say that if commission wanted to have a representative to be on that planning group, if you just let me know who that is, I can send the project manager the contact info and say that this is what we're asking. And,
Larry, you're gonna head up that working group?
I will. I think, I anticipate that it will need to be a couple of us there can be just one at a time, but a couple of people that can rotate in and out there, depending on how frequently they can one time.
Okay.
I anticipate being available all of them.
4F is review, discussion, and possible action regarding the Animal Advisory Commission bylaws. We are required to revise our bylaws due to the new 11-member configuration. Joan sent out a template, and I've looked it over, and I really don't see anything that would deviate from the general changes that everyone has to make. So I think we can, Joan, is there a process, do we have to fill that out? Or do we just approve as is with those changes and send it to the? Okay. Okay. So I looked at it very carefully, and I don't see anything that we need to change on there.
The other thing I saw is, when I was looking at it, I saw something funny about it, we were talking about 4-year terms. Not everybody's a 4-year term. There's some 2-year terms, so does that have to get addressed?
I think that's just because the 10-month system is new, and some council members got 2 years, and some got 4. But after that, everyone will have a 4-year term. So,
But after that,
see,
after that, we'll have new bylaws, because you'll have new members.
doesn't it say that your position runs with your council? So anyone with a council, like my council member has a 2-year term, I'll have to be appointed in 2 years. Stay around.
that if we're gonna agree with something, it's not
Yeah.
correct, or based upon what knowledge we have.
Right.
It's on the page for all.
It's on housing and
It's in the template for all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to
Nothing,
change.
just put out.
It's okay, it's all right.
So John, we just need to make a motion to approve the new bylaws?
What about that thing you sent out about the? Is that?
I'll address that in a future agenda.
Did the template go out to everybody, or did I just get all?
I think it's just, you sent it to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say.
We under a big deadline to do that? We don't have to vote today.
after we send it to, Dina, it's gonna have to, every board of commissions will go to audit and finance.
Right.
For approval, so there's not, I think.
So we don't need to vote today if we don't want to. Okay.
Leave it on and share with everyone, and then we vote
Yeah,
on it next time.
why don't we do that?
I'll do that, and I'll add it as backup, okay?
Yeah.
And then we can all read it and talk about it.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
And, Chair, if we could, Chairman, if we could back up a little bit to, where are we here? On, the brief restriction, I just had a quick update. The media was here, and there's gonna be a story at 10 o'clock, their story they're doing
Okay.
on this. If people would like to tune in and, what channel is it?
KPU, KU here.
KU?
KI? I thought it was KI.
Okay, KI.
Hey,
And, and it was interesting, Kristen, share with them what you shared with me.
Well, they were here to hear about the breed restriction and housing work group, and so I talked to them a little bit about kind of the situation of, loved animals being surrendered because there was no housing, and then alternately people not being able to adopt animals because of housing issues. But more interesting than me was that they caught someone in the lobby who wanted to adopt a large breed dog and couldn't because of housing, so they interviewed that person too. And so we just let them know that the working group is really like that body of work is just beginning. We're going to be gathering data and moving forward.
So that was, perfect timing.
Yeah.
And to keep
Yeah,
that,
good planning, guys.
We try.
yeah, we want to keep that issue alive, because I think we just we have to keep that alive. Because it's not gonna change as long as we're at 95% occupancy.
Well, that's the fuss that kind of hurts, some golden nuggets for landlords and owners.
Right.
And I'm not discounting that at all, I think that there's possibility.
I meant it's not gonna, what I meant to say is it's not gonna change with the occupancy rate so high if we don't do the things that you and I talked about. How do we appeal to all the ideas that you've been thinking about and working on, and I think we'll have that conference call tomorrow. We can change it, but I guess I meant there's no pressure to change otherwise if we don't create opportunities for them.
This would help for a turn down in the real estate market.
Yeah.
He said maybe the
Not
next
yet,
story
please.
can be on
No, I'm sure.
Wow.
Wait, no.
dog-friendly workplaces. We could just lump that one.
What's that?
Dog-friendly workplaces. Work on that.
Very good. Okay. So we'll move to 5, new business, discussion and possible action regarding the future date and location of the Animal Advisory Commission's regular meetings. To me, this is probably the most exciting agenda item we've had in a while. It's no secret that for years we've been wanting to get into the boards and commissioners room in City Hall. I don't know why we never asked, but Joan and Tony found that the second Monday of every month is available at the boards and commissions meeting. So if we vote to move our meetings to the second Monday of the month from second Wednesday, and we vote to move our location from here, great acoustics, to the boards and commissions room with microphones and cameras and recording and all that.
EV equipment.
I think we great opportunity to move up to a Division I boards and commission.
So yeah, go from the farm team.
Yeah, so, and I think we could do that as early as next month, from what I understand. So, I would like to entertain a motion to move our regular meetings from Wednesdays to
Are you
Mondays.
moving?
Hmm?
Is that your motion?
I'm asking somebody to make that motion.
So moved. Are you combining the two, location and meeting? As one motion?
Let's do two motions, so we can just enjoy the moment. Okay,
This
now,
is very
okay. Friendly amendment then, oh wait, can I get a second? I'm sorry.
I second.
Okay. So friendly amendment to move the meetings to Monday, second Monday, and to move the location to boards and commissions room in City Hall. Do you accept that? Okay.
So that would be October 12th.
Second Monday,
Yeah.
same time?
Same,
Yeah.
I think so.
Same time?
Yeah.
So that's Columbus Day, or that supposed to be a week?
Columbus Day, is that a problem?
No, I don't think so, it's from the city hall.
We're under the discussion phase, so is there any discussion, questions?
Well, I just have a comment for the volunteers who are walking dogs or staff members that want to be present for the meetings and don't get off work till 6. That would be quite a drive for them to get from here all the way across town. So that's something to consider.
True, we used to meet at the Austin Energy Building, and we used to meet at, where do we meet, on 10th Street? So we moved over here pretty much because the former director wanted us to, and I thought it was a decent idea. But, you know, we used to not meet, you know, traditionally we've not met here, and I understand that convenience factor is not as high, but, you know.
Well,
it
I
has-
think, I think there's a trade-off here. I think having a more professional environment with the improved acoustics and recording equipment and AV where you can actually put the donation budget on a screen so
Exactly.
people can see. I think it also adds a bit of prestige. I think this commission is an important commission. And I love the feel, the grassroots feel of being in the gymnasium. You know, like, I feel like you're like in a little town, like in Pleasantville or something. And so the organic grassroots feel is certainly special, but I think that this is important and you do important work. And I just think moving it to the city hall speaks, I think that's a message all by itself.
Yeah,
That you're just as important as any other commission and board or group that meets there. There's a trade-off, and Goldman's a good point, there's people that want to be participatory, but I would also argue that's more central for a lot of people in Austin, and we may actually see an increase of community involvement. Volunteers and staff can come into our office anytime and talk to us about issues, where sometimes I think the public are looking for an opportunity to connect formally, and this is a type of meeting they might attend to bring an issue up. So I see pros and cons.
Plus, if we're able to broadcast live and have it, where people can go and watch it anytime they want. I get tons of media requests for the tape or whatever. Go ask Joan. But if people can watch it and people can call it up on the internet, that's gold, in my opinion. So,
What about changing it from 6 to 7 so that maybe someone here could get over there? I mean, that would, traffic's a little easier.
Then we'll put something, that could be about 9 o'clock.
And I think that my personal feeling is this time is a really good time.
yeah.
I think people are still fresh.
I think we have it, like, didn't you reserve like 6 to 8 or 6 to 9 or something?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
9 to
Yeah, I always,
allow for overlap.
I like to allow people who get off at 5 to get there, but only so much we can accommodate. I'd like to keep it at 6. Any other discussion? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great.
So is it unanimous?
Yes. Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you, that's great. The final item of new business is discussion and possible action regarding animal cruelty ordinance. This is my item. During the bullhook
issue before City Hall, council struck some of the Part 2C treatment of elephants in the circus. Kind of got our attention. We were kind of worried that instead of a bulldog, the circus might just start using axe handle real bad or something. So we thought we would address that. But it also brought up the mayor, Councilmember Houston, and Councilmember Gallo brought up a really good point that why are we concentrating just on elephants? Why don't we enact better treatment for all animals? So there was a great opportunity to look at the ordinance. So I would like to form a work group, and I'd like to keep it general. I'd like to call it the Animal Ordinance Revision Work Group. There's another item I noticed in the code was the issue of dogs and cars is pretty big right now. And the way the code reads right now, only a police officer or an animal care officer can force entry on a car. And I'd like to make it where any citizen can do it. So there's several things that I want to address. And if we form this work group, then I think we can fix the gap in the bullhook ban, and we can also improve some other areas that we can take a look at. So I would like to make a motion that we create Animal Ordinance Revision Work Group. Yes. Okay, second by Robert. Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Animal
Ordinance revision.
ordinance.
Ordinance. Allow us to look at everything.
Who was second?
Robert? Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Okay. So, we have no public hearings. Future agenda items. Now, since I discovered that the public is not able to make comments on staff briefings, I'm wondering if we can't address that by moving director's update as a standing item under old business. Does that work? That way it's not technically a staff briefing. And then we keep staff briefing for like an outside, like a part needs to come speak, or the audit people need to come speak, or anything else. Other than that, to me, the staff briefing is the item that most people want to comment on, and if they can't comment on it, then it just doesn't work. So I don't see any reason why we can't move director's update to old business. Does that work for everybody? I don't know if we need a vote or what.
Well, what did you, what was you said you talked to the lawyers or something about?
Well, I was reading over the ordinance and I found that part of that new thing, I emailed Dina Estrada
Right.
and had her check into it, and what she told me is that she thought it was fairly recent, and something about city council not wanting the public to be able to ask questions when an outside, staff comes to give briefings at their meetings, and we have to mirror our meetings from council, so that it did apply to us. And, other than getting it changed, which is probably difficult to do, I think the workaround is to call the director's update an agenda item under old business, so.
Yeah, let's have a motion.
Okay, yeah. So, will somebody make a motion to move the director's update to a standing item under old business?
I move to move director's update to
I'll second. Joe? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That'll be unanimous. Okay, I think that will settle that. Well, yeah. So I think when I look at old business, do we need the budget next month? Is that going to be done?
Hopefully it'll be voted on to do that.
So we should strike that, I think. The dangerous dog needs to stay, housing needs to stay, wildlife needs to stay.
Would you like to leave budget on there just so we can tell you that it passed and let you know,
You can do a director's update if you want.
you'll know if there's a problem because you're gonna see the bat in the sky.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna converge on City Hall, and Angel's gonna be smelling salt under my nose.
It never hurts to keep something on and then not just bypass it, so.
Right, whatever you wanna do. But you're right, the director's report, so.
You said I,
What's that?
you said I.
Yeah, there's that brief. Yeah, I mean, director's update.
Chair.
Yeah, that's.
Mr. Lundstedt? Mr. Lundstedt?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just have a question.
Yes.
In addition to the budget, at that time, would it be also a good idea to talk about the year-end expenses at that point, compared to the budget for fiscal year 2015?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's, that would be good. And Joan, let's reach out to our colleagues in Health and Human Services on that we were able to show them how we ended the year fiscally, and then what we're funded for in the upcoming year. Because there's, you know, I've inherited some challenges, and a lot of the things that we've been talking to you about, that we're doing, the environmental scan, the 30-day review, the no-kill plan, length of stay, quality of life. It goes back to bringing our costs down, our quality of care up, our length of stay down, animals moving out more quickly. So the idea is, because to get 6 months of temporary employees cleaning with, I'm putting myself out there a little bit. It's just, it's suffice to say, we need to see a cost savings for that in the long run. And we'll see that hopefully with lowering length of stay and overtime costs associated with we're at capacity. Right?
Okay. So from what I see, we're gonna keep 4 old business exactly the way it is, and we're gonna move Lamar Beach Workgroup and Animal Ordinance Revision Workgroup up into old business, and we're gonna move the director's update down into old business. Lisa always makes us vote on this thing. I don't think we need to vote. I think we need to do it, but.
Well,
If
Lamar
anybody
Beach
wants-
Working Group is not mentioned on here because it was brought up under the medical plan.
Okay.
So we may want, it's not just a move, it's not on.
Okay. Well, then let's just make a motion to keep 4A through F and add director's update, Lamar Beach Work Group, and Animal Ordinance Revision Work Group. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll make that motion. A second. Second by Larry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. So I think we're good. Any other new items anybody wants to add at this time? You can always add them during the month. Think of anything. But I think we got a pretty good plan. And how we get the word out about the change? Can everybody with their social media pages put that out there and,
Hands on it.
We can also talk to Patricia about how the city can do efficient.
maybe we could put something out.
Yeah, that's what I was doing a second ago. I will be speaking with her tomorrow about a couple of issues, and we'll talk about a communication plan, get the word out.
Okay.
Yeah, because it'd be nice to get that to the meeting too, so that anybody who's interested.
Oh, and to the meetings, yeah, for them to feel it's a chance.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure we talk about that.
Okay. All right, that's it. We'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for coming. Good to see everyone.